Question 71. Verification will most likely help test whether. So we've got A, the firm has enough credibility to perform its own verification. A firm can't perform its own verification. You have to have an independent third party do that, so we'll rule that out. And to be clear, we're assuming this is talking about GIPS verification. B, policies and procedures are designed to calculate performance in compliance with the GIPS standards. This sounds exactly like what verification is designed to do, so we'll leave this B in play, make sure we can rule out C. C, the investment firm has complied with all the composite construction requirements of the GIPS standards on a composite-specific basis. This is going to be too granular for what the verification process is designed to look at. We're not going that deep into composite-specific. The point is to ensure that the firm has the processes or policies and procedures, like mentioned in B, in order to carry out calculations properly. So we'll go with B. Question 72. Which of the following is least likely accurate? And so keys here are supervisor. We're not given too much information in the actual question itself, but these what we're looking at are all related to supervision on first glance here at these answers. So with that in mind, let's take a look. Two of these will be accurate, related to a supervisor's duties, and then one will be inaccurate. A violation of ethical standards reflects not only an employee's conduct, but also that of their supervisor. This is correct, since the supervisor is generally going to be reviewing and approving all work that an employee is doing. So if the supervisor is green lighting that work, then that's going to reflect poorly on them as well. B, it is not the supervisor's responsibility to ensure that investment reports are compliant with the code and standards. This is probably going to be our answer. It is going to be their responsibility since, like we mentioned before, supervisors do have a responsibility over their delegates, and they're generally going to be reviewing and approving that work. So if they're reviewing and approving poor work that's not compliant, then that is certainly their responsibility. C, reasonable supervision is typically determined as a function of the number of employees supervised and the specific jobs being done. This is also correct. We only have so much time, so we can't be expected to review every single minute detail. So we will stick with B. Question 73. Robert Zane, CFA, was retained by Alpha Beta Management to manage their corporate pension plan. ABM has approached Zane and requested that Zane invest 50% of the entire plan in ABM stocks. Since the country in which Zane practices does not regulate the investments of company retirement plans, Zane may. So we've got A, invest 50% of all of the retirement plan assets in ABM stock in line with management's request, only if he can document that the investment is more prudent than any other investment opportunity he may find. Key here is investing 50% of the stock of the retirement plan in any one stock. No matter how much research and how much more prudent that investment is than any other opportunity, it's going to be really hard to justify as a fiduciary that you should be invested 50% of your assets in one individual stock. So we can go ahead and cross that off. B, invest a portion of the retirement plan in ABM stock if the investment is prudent and if he keeps the overall portfolio properly diversified. This sounds like a good option as a fiduciary. And the key here to look at too is it does say that the country does not regulate the investments. But since Zane is a CFA charter holder, he's held to the more strict standard of the CFA Institute Codes and Ethics. So just because they're not regulating doesn't mean that management can kind of dictate the investments. So this would certainly be in line with the CFA Code and Standards of managing retirement plans. We can probably choose B, but let's make sure we can rule out C. C, disregard the management's request and fail to invest any funds in ABM stock regardless of the stock's prospects. The stock should be considered but only invested in if it's a prudent investment, like mentioned in B. We shouldn't disregard it just because of management's request. So we can rule out C as well. We'll stick with B. Question 74. Which of the following statements is most likely true? A. Members cannot pursue a competing independent practice that could result in compensation or other benefits. This is too restrictive. The code and standards allow you to pursue outside employment, and typically employers will also allow this too. But we're likely going to need some type of permission. So B, members and candidates are required to disclose any compensation arrangement, sounds good so far, to their employers that involves performing competing tasks or services that their employers can charge for, only if they occur during work hours. The first part of this sounds good up until that only section. Even if they're occurring outside of work hours, we're probably going to need approval there. So we can, we're probably not going to choose B. So let's make sure we can go with C. Members can pursue a competing independent practice that could result in compensation or other benefits as long as they have their employer's written consent. This is what we're looking for here. The hours during which they occur is not relevant. And generally with written consent, your employer is going to allow this unless there's some huge conflict of interest. So we'll go with C. Question 75. Jonathan Brooks, CFA, is a stockbroker in Hong Kong. Yi, his neighbor and a well-known financial blogger, tells him that he is about to publish information about a firm that is under a lot of pressure from its creditor. Brooks should most likely. So we've got a well-known financial blogger, and so a well-known financial blogger is probably pretty well connected, and he's about to publish information about the firm under a lot of pressure from its creditor. So this sounds like it's probably material, non-public information. So with that in mind, our answer should be something that involves not acting on the information or causing anyone to act on that information. So that in mind, let's take a look at these answers. So we've got sell the stock given this information. That would be acting on it. So we can rule that out, which would be a violation of the standards. Buy the stock, since this information is soon to be published. This would also be acting on the information. So we should not do that either to make sure we don't violate. And then C, not trade the stock before the release of this information. That's the answer that we're looking for. Once the information is released and it's public, then we're good to do as we please. Answer C. Question 76. Tom Jones, CFA, is an independent research analyst with a huge social media following across multiple social media platforms. Unicorn Capital is underwriting AXA Bank's IPO. Tom Jones has been contacted by Unicorn Capital to issue a favorable report on AXA Bank shares for a cash compensation. To be in compliance with the CFA code and standards, Tom Jones should most likely. So we've got A, issue the report as per Unicorn Capital's request, B, decline Unicorn's cash offer to issue a favorable report, or C, issue an unfavorable report but decline the cash compensation from Unicorn Capital. So a couple key things we're looking here is he's been contacted to issue a favorable report for the cash compensation. Generally it's okay to receive the cash compensation, but if it's to issue a favorable report, this is going to cloud our judgment, which would go against the standard of independence and objectivity. Tom Jones, under this question doesn't really know the fundamentals of the business yet. So without him knowing that he can issue a favorable report, and with that as the expectation, the best option is probably going to be to decline this cash offer. So issuing the report as the request would likely violate the standards, since this is going to be a conflict of interest and go against his independence and objectivity, especially because he doesn't know the fundamentals of the business yet. And then C, saying that we should just go ahead and issue an unfavorable report. Again, he doesn't know the fundamentals yet, so we can't say for certain that he should issue an unfavorable report. So we'll stick with B, decline the cash offer. Question 77. In the context of global investment performance standards, composites refer to A, the aggregate of portfolios managed with the same investment mandate. This is precisely the definition of composites under GIPS. So A is likely our answer here. Let's make sure we can rule out B and C. B, the combined fees of portfolios managed with the same investment mandate. Composites are groups of portfolios. Fees don't have anything to do with the kind of arrangement of those composites. Different portfolios might have different fees, but they can be within the same composite. C, the verification standards that apply to portfolios managed with the same investment mandate. The standards are defined by GIPS, not verifiers or verification. So we can go ahead and rule out C as well. And we'll stick with our answer A. Question 78. Billy Perignon is scheduled to have dinner with a client whose portfolio he manages. Perignon plans to advise the client to add 5,000 shares to his current EER position before the meeting, and under Standard 5 Investment Analysis Recommendations and Actions, Perignon should least likely. So two of these things are things he should do before the meeting, and one is something that is not relevant or he shouldn't be doing. So we've got A, exercise diligence, independence, and thoroughness in analyzing the investment. This certainly sounds like something we should be doing for our clients, so we can cross that off. B, plan to document the details of the conversation with the client with regard to his investment recommendation. This also sounds like a prudent thing to be doing with the client, so let's make sure we can choose C as our answer. Identify other clients for whom EER may be a suitable investment and notify them immediately of his recommendation. This sounds like it could also be something he should be doing, but I think in the answer they're looking for things specific to this client meeting. So he's recommending it at the meeting as well, so that would also leave him some room to notify clients after the meeting rather than doing it before. And then also he's advising him to add to his position. So in that case, other clients are probably also already holding EER, and maybe there's some specific reason for Billy's situation that he's recommending this. So we'll go with C. And the least likely here is really a good reason to. This is the reason you need to pay attention to what the answer is given, because if we just read this as what he should do, then we would see A, exercise diligence, independence, and thoroughness in analyzing the investment. We'd say, oh, that sounds right, and then we choose A and just move on. But we're looking for basically two things that we should do and one thing we should not do, which leads us to C. Question 79. A CFA charter holder gathers the opening prices of stock ABC from a widely read publication. The CFA charter holder uses the data as part of a report he is preparing but fails to disclose the data source in the report. The charter holder's actions are most likely. So that failing to disclose the data source is key here, and they're trying to trip you up by the widely read publication. Even though it's a widely read publication, we need to disclose that data source. So we are violating the standards in this case. So we've got A, a violation, and then B and C are both not violations. So we can go ahead and rule out those not violations and go with A. It's a violation. Question 80. According to the Code of Ethics, a member reflects credit on the profession when he or she places the clients first, practices in a professional and ethical manner, or consults with other members on a regular basis. Let's pull in our components of the Code of Ethics so we can take a look at these, make it a little bit bigger for you. So looking through these, we're going to see that the only one that falls on here is going to be the number 4, practice and encourage others to practice in a professional and ethical way. This is a tough question because A and C also sound like very prudent actions that we should be taking. Placing the clients first, obviously a good thing to be doing. And then also consulting with others and ensuring that we are putting best practices into place for our specific situation. But falling specifically under those code of ethics, we go with B, since that's the answer on here.